US. So, well, welcome everybody. It's always fantastic to have a mixed group here and people from different parts of the country and different parts of the world. And I'd love this session today to be as interactive as possible. So I've got some really exciting things I want to share with you about resilience and how to thrive during this really uncertain time. And I'd love to know how it's landing with you as we're going through. So please do keep popping comments in the chat. They don't have to be long. It can be just a yes or a no, or something, so that I can just see how it's landing with you. That would be brilliant. And there we go. So how to thrive during uncertain times, being resilient AF. And the AF doesn't stand for what you might think it does. It stands for anti-fragility. So just to clear that up straight away, but we will go into exactly what that means and exactly what that is for everybody. So first of all, to get everybody off to a good start, I'd love to know one word to describe how you are feeling today. So is it a good feeling or a negative feeling? It's up to you to put down whatever you're feeling. It's not going to be seen by anybody apart from me or somebody else in the chat. If you share it to all panelists, I'll see it. If you share it to I think it's all panelists and attendees, it will go to everybody. But this is really just to get a sense of where we all are. Okay, so we're all optimistic, hopeful, anxious. Okay, so Eleanor, see if you can just expand on okay. Check into that. What's really underneath that, so you can go a little bit deeper. Chilled, uncertain, up, yeah, like that. Sun is out, so happier, but a bit anxious, great, inspired, apprehensive, tired. Yeah, I was awake at 4 this morning, one of those mornings. So unproductive, upbeat. So we've got a real mixed bag. So keep sharing your comments. I love to read where everybody is. And essentially today, what we're going to do is help you move from any of those negative feelings, any of those feelings of overwhelm, of panic, of feeling powerless, and being sort of in reaction and not feeling in a good space, into a place where you feel calm, you feel assured, you feel positive, and you feel basically just like, okay, I can deal with what's coming my way. And what I want to do is help you make the shift from contraction to expansion. And just even saying those words, I find when I think about being in contraction, it makes me feel very tight, very uncomfortable. When I think about being in expansion, take a nice deep breath in. So I'd invite everybody on the call just to do that. Yeah, the words are still coming in, emotional roller coaster. I can definitely relate to that. I think we're all having our dips and our sort of peaks at different times. So just allow yourself just to take a few deep breaths now and just to settle and just to come and land with where we are today. So one thing that I've been really working on with my clients and with myself over this time is this concept of when we can't go out, we can go within. So we're going through unprecedented times at the moment. We're going through an experience that none of us have really lived through, and hopefully we'll never live through again. But it's a time of, real disruption, a time of real change, and there can be some positives that come out of it. And certainly developing your emotional intelligence, developing your self-awareness, and learning to connect and go within can be a massive growth area that can help you and be a win for this particular time. So, it can help improve your relationships, both with your personal and your professional. It can help you to feel more secure. So it's something that we're going to come back to a lot. This when we can't go out, we can go within. So that's what we're going to look at. So another quick question: how resilient do you currently feel on a 1 to 10? Just give me a number and just pop it in the chat and let me know how resilient do you currently feel. And I'll just give you a minute to. Okay, so we've got 6s, 8s, 7s. So all quite high. Oh, a 10. That was fast. 7. Oh, we've got a 3, Anybody else in the lower numbers? So otherwise we've got everybody feeling really quite resilient. A couple of 5s, a few 9s. Okay, so a really mixed bag. So resilience for me isn't a fixed state. It's very fluid. You know, some days you can feel more resilient than others, but what I'm going to hopefully teach you today is how you can tap into that resilience, how you can tap into feeling that you're in a very resilient state, and you can draw on that resilience when you need to. And that's what's really important when we're having to ride these peaks and these waves. We want to make sure that we've got this resilience that we can tap into, depending on the experiences that we're facing. So just to give a little kind of summary of what we're going to cover, I'm going to keep an eye on the time because I know it can run away with me. But what we're going to cover is being resilient and anti-fragile, and having tools to expand your creativity and to supercharge your energy and improve connection, both with yourself and with other people. And we're also going to do a little bit of a deep dive into looking at the level of identity, how we look at ourselves, and how we can shift our thinking and accelerate our growth quite easily, actually, and quite quickly. So that's something I'm really keen and excited to share with you. And then we'll look at letting go of this perfection and showing up as you. And, you know, my brand is the Imperfect Leader, and I'll talk about imperfect and imperfection sort of a little bit later. But a lot of the values that I have around imperfection and perfection are very much about being more expansive. You know, when we tie ourselves up in knots to show up perfectly, we actually cut off our creativity, we cut off our ability to be curious and to really get to where we need to get to. So that's something I'm really going to invite you all to have a look at. And if you're a perfectionist and you think, oh no, I think that's a great way to be, just have a look and see whether it does truly serve you all the way through your career and all the way through your life. So, as I say, anti-fragility is about going beyond resilience, and it's the ability to thrive as a result of mistakes and failures and shocks and this volatility that we're living in. So I'm sure you're all familiar with living in a VUCA world or a VUCA world, you know, with volatility, uncertainty, complexity and ambiguity. We're living in, as we keep saying, these unprecedented times. And what we want to do is be able to develop the skills so that we can come back from this time even stronger and even greater than we were when we went into. And actually, there are a lot of people that I'm connecting with in the kind of personal growth industry and in the personal growth arena who are saying, actually, I feel like I was born for this time. I feel like I've just been ready and waiting for this time. I have all these skills. I've been through all these knockbacks in my life. I've had all this experience. And now, actually, I'm in a place where I can support, where I can lead, where I can, you know, help others. And I have to say, to a degree, or actually to a large degree, that's how I feel. I've been through so many different knocks in my life and so many different experiences. I've been through a lot of loss, a lot of bereavement. I've been through cancer. I've been through having my own business and seeing it rise and seeing it fail. So I've been through so many different situations, and I've learned so many skills and so many tools through those experiences that actually now I find when sort of I'm faced with a lot of change and a lot of shocks and things, actually I tend to come back really quite well. So that's what I want to help you with, and to give you that confidence, to give you that ability to you know, connect inside and come back really strong. So in order to help you boost your creativity and your energy and your connection with others, you have to have a connection with yourself. And in order to be able to expand, you've got to be in a place where you feel safe. That's first and foremost. So you've got to feel good in yourself in order to do that. And just to clarify and sort of set the container for us today, whenever I work with people, there's always a a container of confidentiality. So what you're sharing with me here, I might read out the odd comments, but I'm not linking it particularly to people's names. It's a very safe space for you to share how you're feeling. There's no judgment. You know, however you're feeling is how you're feeling. You're totally entitled to that. And, you know, I'd invite everybody to be here with a growth mindset, to come with a beginner's mind and be open to learning things. It might be something you've learned before, but it's presented in a different way and it just lands for you, or it might be something completely new. So, you know, what we're wanting to do is create this safe space. And for everybody now working virtually, you know, it's really important that whenever we connect, we have this psychological safety. And what I see with a lot of leaders actually is that there isn't the psychological safety for themselves. So they might try and create it for their people, but they're sitting there fearing making mistakes, and you know, they're less likely to share different views. So there's a real mix of what we're seeing at the moment around safety. And so it's something that is really important for us to manage and to get on top of, so that we can actually be in a space of growth. And just to understand the difference between trust and psychological safety. Psychological safety is how you feel about others. Are you working in a team? Are you working with other people where you feel it's okay to take a risk, and others will give you the benefit of the doubt? You can put your hands up and say something and you don't feel you're going to be shot down. You feel, you know, it's okay. My team expects me to speak up. It's how we do things. You know, are you a part of a team, or are you in a working environment where that's the norm and that's okay? Or are you in a team where actually that doesn't always feel so good? And then trust is about, will you give others the benefit of the doubt when you take a risk? Will you think they're going to respond in a certain way? And we're going to get in a moment into beliefs about others. But this is a big one about trust. A lot of us have trust issues, and it's, you know, it's not about the other person, it's about us. It's about experiences we've had when we get triggered. But what then happens is you show up differently with other people, and we often, you know, blame it on other people and think the trust isn't there, but actually the trust isn't there with us. And that's when we have to get back to this, you know, going within and building up the trust inside us. So I hope that's made sense. That's just hopefully sort of setting us up for that container, so that we can expand, so that we can grow, and we can really move into having more energy. So I just invite everybody to, you know, I'm a big fan of taking deep breaths and just kind of settling into the container. So just allow again your energy to kind of expand out to the edges of the room where you are, and just out to connect with everybody around the country, around the world, everybody who's on this call, so that we create this really gorgeous container of growth and safety. Okay, so I just invite you to take a couple of deep breaths just to do that. And if it feels good to do so, you can put your hand on your heart. I always find that's a really useful one if I want to settle and to calm. And you can also put your hand on your belly, and that will just bring you back to center, back to yourself, and just to bring that calm. And so anybody who is posting that they feel anxious, that they have a low level of resilience at the moment, just connect in with yourself. Just take a few deep breaths and just allow yourself to go into something deeper and stronger. Okay. So now we're going to move on to thoughts and identity. And what I'd love you to do again is post into the chat what your thoughts are, or what your beliefs are about yourself, others, and life. And this is actually not something to spend lots and lots of time on today. It's something I work quite deeply on when I work with clients one-to-one or in group coaching programs. But what it is about understanding, what are our limiting beliefs? What are the beliefs that we have going on underneath that actually are either setting us up for success or sabotaging us. And our resilience is very much linked to this. What we believe about ourselves and about others is going to have a real impact. So I'd just love you to all take a moment or two just to think about, what are your beliefs? And if you're putting it as an I am statement, and this is not about all the positive, you know, I'm marvelous, I'm strong, I'm a leader, all of those. What we're getting into now is those times when you don't feel so resilient, those times when you don't feel so confident, when you feel a little bit low, when you feel yourself feeling anxious, when you're feeling like, oh, I don't know about this today. What's going on for you there? That's what we're going to try and tap into now. So make it as an I am statement, and it can be something like, I'm not enough, I'm scared, I'm invisible, I don't matter. They sound very big labels, but fundamentally all of us have these kind of beliefs deep down, and what we want to do is allow ourselves to connect to them and see how these are old stories that we want to shift. Okay, so I'm just going to give you all a minute or two to just create an I am statement about you, and an I am statement, and a statement about others. So I'm not enough, and others are better than me, and life seems challenging. You know, could be as simple as that. So if you just do that, and you can share it with me, you can share it with the group, or you can keep it to yourself, and just work with this. The main thing is just to go below your resistance, go below what you're scared of connecting into, and really feel it. And trust that we've set the container, we've done the work to create something we're all here in our full adult self, in our strength, in our ability. Everybody who's shown up today, you know, the fact that you've registered for this kind of a talk and that you're here and present shows that you're a leader and you're open to growth. So that's a given, you know, but then we all have these other sides of ourselves which we need to strengthen, and that's where our resilience is going to come through. So I'm just going to have a quick look at some of these comments because they're really, really great. Okay, concerned about others who see me, unworthy, not good enough. Okay, work in progress. Yep, all of these different things. So today I wore my hair in plaits for Tesco. Great, good for you. I think we all have to embrace what we want to do. I'm just glad there's not too much sort of specific looks to see my roots. So, you know, we all have our different things. So, okay, so I'm calm, there's a lot of unknowns. Okay, so just see if you can do the three. So I am whatever, others are, and life is this. And once you have those three, it allows us just to move on and build with those. Okay, so that's what we call the old story. And what we want to do is connect in and see, when we're living from that place, from that old story, it's very difficult for us to move forward and feel resilient and strong, because there's always this nagging feeling deep down that's going to be kind of, you know, pulling us back, that little monkey mind, or that little voice on your shoulder, or that sense inside that's telling you that things aren't okay. So I work with somebody called Claire Zammit in the US. She's created something called Feminine Power. And one thing she's done, which I think is phenomenal, is a matrix of limiting beliefs. And she's worked with hundreds of thousands of women around the globe. I think personally she's worked with about 40,000 people, women generally. But I know these work for men and for women. And she's worked globally on calls and things with over 100,000 women. So these beliefs are tried and tested. She said there's not necessarily only these, but these are the core ones that it kind of boils down to. And I'm going to run through just the kind of top three with you, and just talk about those. So the first one, that's the real biggie, is I'm not enough. And so many of us have this feeling of I'm not enough, and this is what links into imposter syndrome. And you know, when you feel like you're not enough, you always show up less than yourself. You always are going to diminish your confidence, your resilience, your ability. You're not going to be anti-fragile. You're not going to be stepping into your power, because deep down there's a part of you saying you're not enough. So you need to shift that. You need to shift and have a new story that tells you you are enough, or tells you, you know, I am good enough, and put it in the words that work for you. But simple is always best, so that when you're in a time of tension, when you're in a time of anxiety, you can tell yourself, you can breathe in, I am enough, I am enough. And if you try that, just going from saying to yourself, I'm not enough, I am enough. You know, I always do it, and I sort of enhance the actions. It totally changes my energy. It totally changes how I show up. And if I'm about to make a phone call, you know, and I want to feel I am enough, I will do that, and I will step into that power. I will step into that new story. So I would really invite you, if you're struggling to make the shift from the old story to the new story, to look at how you can get some support to do that, and I'd be happy to chat to you about that afterwards. So, but I'm not enough, as I say, is a real biggie for many of us today. And what we need to do is actually understand that that's come from various things that happened to us, maybe during our childhood, maybe at different times in our life. And we, at that time, with the mind that we had at the time, made meaning frames about that. And then we looked for evidence. We looked for evidence of, you know, others are better than me, others are cleverer than me, others are quicker than me. You know, at school, I was brilliant at English, I wasn't so good at maths. And I ended up coming away with the I am not enough belief, because I saw other people around me, you know, being much quicker at maths. Now I realize, okay, you know, I think differently. I have an ability to see a much bigger picture. I have an ability to really go deeply with emotional feelings. I have the ability to see people and talk to them and very quickly understand what's the limiting belief that's holding them back. You know, those are my skills, those are my superpowers. But, you know, as a child, I didn't have all that insight, I didn't have all that knowledge. So that's what we want to be doing, is shifting these beliefs so that we can move forward. So I'd love to know, for any of you who've got the I am not enough as your belief, to see whether that resonates and whether that's been helpful for you, and then we can move on to the next one. So yeah, so let's get you down, beautiful. Okay, so really, you know, this is all about you doing some personal growth work for you, and obviously we're doing it in a very short amount of time, but what I wanted to do is be able to give you the insight into how, when you connect into your feelings, when you connect into them, feeling safe without any judgment, without any fear, and with a perspective of growth, bringing in our wise self, you can actually start to see how you show up in different situations. And when we identify our own inner patterns and our own inner behavior, what it does is it allows us to see ourselves as the source of things. And that's not the same as saying we're to blame for something, but it is about taking personal responsibility for how we're showing up. And the good thing about that is it means it gives you the ability to change. So if you know that you've got one of these limiting beliefs going on, and all of us have got different limiting beliefs going on, and you can tap into what it is and reframe it, then you can actually take responsibility for how you're showing up. So I hope that's making sense and allowing you to kind of be helpful. I'm just going to go through. Great, lots of comments coming through. So the second belief that I wanted to talk about today was I'm invisible. And this is one that I see with lots of people, lots of women particularly. And I know women that I've spoken to find that when they get to a certain age, they feel more and more invisible. And, you know, what we have to look at is, yes, there are societal things that are the kind of, you know, cultural ways that have actually helped us buy into this belief of being invisible. But there are also ways that we choose to show up that keep this old story going on. And as we become more and more inclusive and diversive in our companies, and we create stronger senses, hopefully, of belonging, where it's okay to show up as you, you can realize that whether you're introvert or extrovert, you know, it's okay. And the invisible pattern often can show up with people who are more introverted and find it difficult to be, you know, all out there, and actually then go into this kind of, oh, I'm not enough. If I'm not the same as them, if I can't speak up really loudly, then there must be actually something wrong. But the more we can tap into, okay, that's the belief, you know, when I was growing up, everybody around me had more to say than me, I was very shy. You know, we want to tap into that and see how we can change it into a new belief that encapsulates all the strength that you do have. And I'm invisible always makes me think of somebody on a leadership call that I participate in. And she's somebody who doesn't really speak up very much. She listens to everybody. And this is how I am actually on a lot of the calls. So obviously I'm you know, leading this today, so I'm talking, and I'm you know, great in a one-to-one, but often in a group, I will come back, I'll step back, and I'll listen to everybody. And what I find with this colleague is when she steps forward, when she does speak, when she feels safe enough to do that, what she comes out with is absolute pure gold. It's got so much depth, it's got so much wisdom to it, but she's had to nurture the belief of I'm invisible, and shift it, not nurture it, not nurturing, keep I'm invisible there, but nurture coming out of that pattern, excuse me, so that she can then say, okay, I'm visible, I've got a voice, I need to be seen and heard, I've got something to say. And, you know, being around people that create that container for her has allowed her to do that. So if you're somebody who struggles with this pattern, you know, look at what you need to do to be able to turn up with more confidence, to be able to turn up with more voice, and see what do you need to do to create the safety for yourself, so that you start to break through those old patterns. Because what we tend to find is we keep them going, you know, and we can always look for evidence to help us, you know, keep them in place. But actually, you know, the bottom line is we have the choice whether we buy into that thought or whether we choose to have another thought and a new story. So the third limiting belief that I wanted to talk about today, which is a key one for what's going on at the moment, is I'm alone. And, you know, this for lots of people is one of their biggest fears. And we're seeing lots of difference in how people are coping with what's going on at the moment. With, you know, some people are actually doing okay working from home. You know, they're actually getting a lot done. They're finding, you know, actually I can do twice as much in half the time. I can choose the times when I work. I can get up early in the morning and then I'm done and I've got the afternoon. And then you've got other people who are really feeling this sense of loss. They're feeling this lack of connection. And a lot of it connects into this deeper belief, this limiting belief that we have, which is I'm alone. And it can be a real fear. And coronavirus, by the very nature of its disease and the way that it's spreading, is really bringing up the collective feel of I'm alone. And it's a really scary one for many of us. If we weren't scared of being alone, you know, we would respond to what's going on in a very different way. But it's human nature to want connection. But more and more of us have this need, excuse me, to really have a connection outside of us. And so it doubles the kind of loss and the fear that you will feel when you have a really strong connection to yourself, whether you do that through, excuse me, a meditation practice, or whether you do it through just sort of deep breathing, through yoga, through walking and just kind of really connecting in with yourself, you'll find that your ability to be on your own becomes much greater, and you can learn to really expand and be with that. And so it's something I would invite everyone to consider. How do you feel about being alone? And if one of your big fears is I'm alone, how can you shift that into a new story of, you know, I'm not alone, I'm connected? Because the truth is, we are all connected. You know, we may all be, you know, in different parts of the country, different parts of the globe even, but we are all connected. We all feel the same things. We all have the same kind of emotions. We all have the same kind of desires. And the more that we stop seeing ourselves in isolation and feeling that we've got to get things hidden, and I'll come on to how that links into being imperfect, the more comfortable we're going to feel with everything, and the better resilience we will have to cope with what we're having to go through at the moment. So I'd love to know if that's landing with you, if you're seeing whether you relate to one of the three patterns more than any of the others, whether you feel you've got them all, or whether you feel like your belief could be something different. As I say, there are 21 key these sort of beliefs. There's I don't matter, I don't feel safe. That's a big one. That came up for me recently. Generally, I'm somebody who's travelled the world. I've you know, lived on my own for a while. I've done all sorts of different things. I'm usually very independent, but you know, I went through cancer a few years ago, and you know, one of the big things for me that came up when I had chemotherapy was that it wasn't safe for me to really go out. You know, there were times of the month when I was having my treatment when my immune system was super duper low, and there was one time when I had to go to A&E, and it was really scary. So I do have this kind of, okay, you know, I've got boundaries around how safe I feel. And the other day I went out and I was really trying to keep my distance from everybody, and suddenly I'd gone down to the river near where I live and it was packed. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want any of these people around me. I had this really sort of strong reaction. Like, I had to come home. I just thought, you know what, actually, I don't feel safe in this kind of environment. And I did some work. I connected in, I acknowledged that feeling that I had. I reframed the story, and then I was able to move on. But it's really important that, you know, we have these tools that we're able to, instead of turning away from our emotions, which is what a lot of us do, or suppress them down, or just, you know, they come out in a big explosive kind of, you know, on everybody. We sort of, you know, vomit all over everybody with our anger or our fear. What we want to be able to do is turn towards our own feelings, acknowledge them, look at them from the view of our adult self, look at them from the view of our perspective and our wise self and our future self. Think about, okay, in a year's time or 5 years' time, how will I feel about this situation when I've grown? You know, and then actually be able to handle them. So I'm conscious that we're moving to about 35 minutes. I really want to get some Q&A going and do this. So I want to just give you a little bit about being imperfect in the way that I view it. And for me, the imperfect leader kind of came about because I never thought of myself as somebody who was perfect, but I realized I was always trying to be, and that it held me back in lots and lots of ways. It would stop me showing up in my full self. It would stop me feeling confident when I needed to be. And I realized when I could let go of actually sort of seeing myself as when I could let go of seeing myself as perfect and go, you know what, actually I'm imperfect, all of us are, suddenly I could show up with a lot more confidence and a lot more resilience. And for me, being imperfect is about connecting in to things like curiosity, to progression. It's not about perfection, it's about progression. It's a really great saying that I go back to all the time. It's about being a bit rebellious. It's about being a bit of a maverick. It's about learning to fail fast. and to go with the flow. It's about being open to possibilities. You know, being imperfect, you need to be a truth teller. You need to be able to tell the truth to yourself, to acknowledge when maybe you've messed up and you've done things, and you need to be able to compassionately tell others the truth too, and be able to hold a space for that. So for me, being imperfect is such a range of growth attributes and growth values. I no longer see it as a negative, but I'm really curious as to whether the word imperfect brings up something positive in you or something negative in you. So if you can just write in positive or negative in the chat, that will be great. I'd love to see how that kind of works. So yeah, lots and lots of negatives. And in the corporate world, you know, it's mixed. It's really interesting. If you work with some creative industries where, or in tech sometimes, where there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of, you know, pioneering behavior, you know, being imperfect, it's kind of like, okay, we have to keep trying, we have to keep trying. And they get used to failing fast. And, you know, we can start to sort of embrace this imperfection and embrace this way of being. But when I have clients who work in law or who work in finance, you know, oh my God, you know, the thought of being imperfect is absolutely horrendous. You know, I'll lose my job if I get things wrong. You know, and the thing is if we create environments, if we create cultures which are like that, where it's absolutely, you know, horrendous if you make a mistake, you're not going to get any growth. You know, everything is going to be shut down, because we need to have the space, we need to have the security to try things. And it's like now, you know, leading the country, leading, you know, ourselves through this particular time. None of us have been through it before. Even the Queen, who's, you know, been through war and been through the, you know, all these different things. There was a lady with, you know, 104 who's just come through coronavirus, and, you know, she's been through the Spanish flu. But, you know, there's not many women of 104 or men of 104 who are around to help us. We have to kind of make things up. We have to try things. We have to go with the wisdom of people that have gone before us, but we have to be prepared to try and see. And so I would just invite you to try that on, to try, okay, how can I create being imperfect, again, with some safety around you, not just going off and doing something really rash or really risky or really dangerous, but being imperfect in a safe space with people you work with or in your family, so that you can start to loosen up and expand and see what kind of growth comes out of that. Okay, so somebody said being imperfect creates behavior of procrastination. So it's fear. If you know, when we procrastinate about something, it's because we're scared. We're thinking, oh God, if I do this, what will they say? If I do that, what will I think? Or if I do this, you know, what will the reaction be? Will I mess things up? And so anytime we're not moving forward, you know, it's all about fear. It's all about fear that's stopping us. And yeah, somebody's mentioned Brené Brown, and I love Brené Brown, and The Gifts of Imperfection. I think it's, you know, it's a classic book, letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you are. If you haven't read that, even the title, to me, I think, you know, is a powerful thing. If you can live by that title, you know, see the gifts in imperfection, see the gifts in the mistakes you make. You know, as a transformational coach, we're all about learning and harvesting. And when we make mistakes or when things don't go to plan, it's about looking and seeing, okay, what needed to be different in this situation to have it work in a different way. And there's a lot of I wonder and I'm curious about, and, you know, there's a much softer, more playful energy that comes when we use that kind of language. And then we can start to move forward. But because, you know, ultimately we're all about growth, we're all about progression. But what we need to do is create the right conditions that allow that. If we're all trying to get to being perfect in a very tight straitjacket, we're not going to get to where we actually need to be. Okay, so I hope that's past it. So someone said the name of the book, yeah, The Gift of Perfection, Brené Brown. That's the book. You know, if you want to have a look. So I want to, as I say, move on to Q&A. I think we've got about 5-10 minutes left. So if you've got any questions, post them in the chat, or yeah, post them in the chat, and then I can see them here. But what I'm conscious of today is this is a real whistle-stop tour, you know, of building resilience and becoming more anti-fragile. And this is a really massive time for everybody. And I work with leaders, I encourage leaders to do the work, to get to know themselves more deeply, to understand their emotions, to improve their relationships, not just with their teams, not just in their workplace, but with themselves, to have a happier life with their family members, with, you know, people they haven't even met yet, you know, to really just, you know, expand the way that they work. And so I've created a really quick course, which I think is going to help people to really get to understand what it is that's holding you back and allow you to thrive in this massively uncertain time. So if you're interested in that, it's on my website, you can find details of it, but I would love to work with small groups. I might run a few of these, but I'm going to keep them to small groups so that it can be really personal and you get a lot of one-to-one time with me. Because I think now, as I say, going back to my beginning comment, when we can't go out, we can go within. This is the time when we need to do some of this deep work. You know, this is the time when we need to put off going out and distracting us and keeping ourselves busy, or staying in and drinking loads, or overeating, which we're all, you know, kind of starting to do. This is the time when we actually need to get underneath all of that and really start to connect with who we are, see our brilliance, see our flaws, and find a way to bring everything up so that then we can build this resilience, we can feel the strength within us, and we can build connected teams, we can work more effectively. And when we move out the other side of coronavirus, we're all in a strong place to lead and have a kind of new normal, which is what I think we're going to have. So that's my session. So I've got a question here. Is each session of the course 1 hour long? So actually they're going to be longer than that. So you know, the virtual teachers will be about I think an hour and a half, and the group coaching probably about an hour and a half as well. So I always find we need a bit of time to set the scene and then go deeply, and then have sort of Q&A at the end. But what's another question? What are my 3 top tips to help you feel better when you feel disheartened and down? Well, my top tip, I don't know if I've got 3 off the top of my head, but my top tip when you're feeling disheartened and down is to move yourself out of that place of powerlessness and thinking about one of those limiting beliefs, because that's what will be bringing you down. That's what will be underneath it, and shifting the energy into something more positive. And if you're in the house and you can't get out, that can be difficult to do. But, you know, getting up, having a dance, shaking your energy off, you know, putting on some music that you love, you know, even just going and standing in a different part of your home if you can't get out. But if you can get out, go for a run, do some exercise, you know, shift up your energy. But look at what it is that you're really feeling. You know, you're feeling disheartened and down. Why is that? What's the underneath it? What are you telling yourself about yourself or about others, about life? And chances are what you're doing is you're telling yourself a lot of negatives and holding yourself in a powerless state. And what you need to do is call on the strength that you've had before, the strength that's got you to where you are today, or the strength of collective people around you, and see, okay, how do I reframe that? How do I turn that into something that's going to make me feel just a little bit better, to move into that? So I hope that helps, Sophie. If you want to have a chat about it in more detail afterwards, I can be contacted by We Are the City and via all the social media channels. I'm most active probably on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit on Twitter, but mainly on LinkedIn. Otherwise, you can email me, and my email is Lisa, Lisa at lisabarnwell.co.uk. So just let me see if we've got a little bit more time now. I think we're just on 45 minutes. I don't think I've ever run a webinar quite so tightly packed and to time. I think we probably can take one or two more quick questions if we have them. Let me know we're the city if you're going to kind of kick me off. Otherwise, if anybody has a quick question, just please pop them in and I will see if I can answer them. Okay, thank you so much and keep in touch.